Hey YouTube, I wanted to share with you what I do when I make chicken broth. I use my bottles from my coffee creamer and I just strip them down and I fill them up with the broth that I make from a whole chicken. I strain it the first time to get all the bigger pieces out of the juice, and then I strain it another time to get the even smaller pieces out of the juice. Also, when I put them in the smaller bottles, I'll fill them up 3/4 of the way and then the rest of the way with a distilled water or a clean water, a spring water or something of that sort. The goal is to have chicken broth whenever I want without having to pay for it and go to the grocery store. I'm putting these bottles in the freezer for a later date. So I have to make sure they're tightly sealed and also make sure they are labeled with what it is, which is the product and the date. Of course, by me freezing this, I would make sure that I would put this on the bottom of the freezer. If you have a stand-up freezer, you can put them, make sure they're face up, and just make sure that they're not laying down. So I always put them standing up in my freezer at the bottom because I have a deep freezer, which is kind of deep. So I put them in the bottom of my freezer and everything else on top. So I use chicken broth for quite a few things. I use broth for quite a few things. So it can be beef broth, it can be vegetable broth, it can be chicken broth. So I use all three, and I do mashed potatoes, or I do green beans, or I do greens with this broth. I hope that you will try to make some broth yourself because you're probably making it now. If you are a cook, you are probably making it now, and there is no need for you to go to the grocery store to buy it. You can make it on your own. You can just save your containers and do it yourself. If I were to make the beef broth, I would do it the exact same way, except for I would use a piece of beef. If I were to do the vegetable broth, I would to do it the exact same way, except for I would just use vegetables in it. I would use onions, celery, peppers, seasonings and spices like salt, pepper, garlic. So I would use that in that mixture and still strain it the exact same way that I do the chicken broth. There's a lot of things that we can do on our own. We're just so conditioned to just going to buying what's already prepared. But if you prepare it like in bulk, it's much easier when you can just pull it out of the fridge or the freezer and let it unthaw and have it right there at your own home. Thank you for watching.